Russell Gang in here for Russell Fishing Tech, coming back at you with another video. Today, it's early March. We're talking brown trout. First fish, generally speaking, that guys target on Lake Michigan, on Lake Ontario. Guys have been fishing, all winter from times to times this particular year because we had such a soft winter. Targeting brown trout, chasing after them, looking to try to catch a bunch of those fish. And brown trout a lot of times are some of the most fun action and some of the most fished salmon and trout species every year, because a lot of us have been sitting in the house all winter long. We're looking to get out and get out of the house, get out fishing, and it's the first salmon and trout fishing a lot of times that's happening in a lot of places. So guys are really excited about it. And quite frankly, it's a ton of fun. And the other nice part is, because of your fishing, generally speaking, near the shoreline, you don't need a lot of fancy equipment to do it. If you're a walleye guy that likes to fish salmon a little bit, you can do real well brown trout fishing with pretty much your walleye rods and reels, walleye trolling rods and reels. With that said, the topic of the video today is basically how to pick what spoons to use for brown trout fishing. And I want to start off by saying right away that I personally have gotten away from crankbaits. Crankbaits do work for brown trout fishing. They have their days. They can be fantastic. There's some great crankbaits out there like bay rats, thunder sticks, flicker shads, Smith McRattlet rogues. I'm not debating or arguing that crankbaits don't work for brown trout, because they absolutely do. But what I have realized is that all of those baits have pretty small hooks. And here in Wisconsin in particularly, but I think everywhere, you're dealing with a variety of size of brown trout, anywhere from 1 to 2 pounds up to 20 pounds. And your hook to land ratio on crankbaits with those small hooks is pretty tough. I mean, a lot of times if you get 8-10 bites and you go 50% hook to land on, on those crankbaits, that's pretty good. So I've actually, about 4, 5, 6 years ago, somewhere in that range, I really got pretty much into fishing spoons almost exclusively for browns, really just because the hook size is so much bigger. The spoons that I like to fish have a single treble hook on them, and they're a pretty good size hook. And when you get the fish hooked up on those, you have a really good chance of landing it. So basically, I use Salmon Candy mini spoons. There's a lot of good spoons out there. Michigan Stinger spoons and their stinger size work really, really well. Moonshine makes a mini size that I've had some success with over the years. But here at Salmon Candy, we make a mini size spoon. I've talked a lot about in the past that our spoon is very lightweight, very fluttery, which is really nice for that early spring fishing when you're targeting brown trout at that really slow speeds of, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2.0. Stuff like that, which is my general target speed for brown trout. I've done really, really well with our Salmon Candy mini spoons because they're light. You get some action out of them at that speed, and they seem to work really, really well. We make 3 different blank colors, which is important to know for this conversation. At Salmon Candy, and we make that, for specific reasons. We make silver, which is kind of, I would say, the overall, most popular spoon blank altogether, not just brown trout I'm saying, but overall altogether. Most of our spoons in the standard and magnum sizes that we sell are going to be in the silver blanks, but we make that in the mini. Then we also make copper, which you can see here. That's like the back of a copper spoon, so that's what the copper blank looks like before we add any tape or paint to it. And we also make gold, and that's what the gold blank looks like before we add any paint or tape to it. Me personally, I'm just going to tell you right up front, I like to fish gold. I will fish any of the 3 blanks, and I like to let the fish tell me what they want that particular day. So each and every trip I go out, I like to have a variety out. Start with a few gold, start with a copper or 2, start with a silver or 2. If I was putting on 8 rod spread tomorrow, let's say, brown trout fishing, I'd probably have 4 gold on, 2 silver, and 2 copper to start. And that way I can kind of let the fish tell me what they want. But basically, there's 2 major factors that I use when I'm deciding what Salmon Candy spoons, or any spoon for that matter, that I want to pick for brown trout fishing that day. And one of them is sort of unique to the rest of our salmon and trout fishing, at least for us here on Lake Michigan and for a lot of guys on Lake Ontario. and that is watercolor. Because we're fishing, the 10 to 20 foot range, and particularly I really like to fish like that 7 to 12 foot range for brown trout. We actually deal with colored water. We do still have some colored water on Lake Michigan along the shoreline. Not a lot, but there is colored water along the shoreline and tight and inside of that 30, 40 foot of water. So it is one of the few times a year, basically spring brown fishing and fall king fishing, where we're going to deal with colored water, which means visibility. If you have a little bit of dirty water and you only have 3-4 foot of visibility, you need a little bit more color to get their attention. If you have, very, very clean water or fairly clean water where you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 foot of visibility, which a lot of times too clear water is sort of the death of brown trout fishing. But if you do have very clear water, then we go with a lot of more natural colors, more of the shiny stuff, things like that. So that's what we're going to talk about. The other factor is weather conditions. Obviously, again, because there's somewhat of a visibility concern, because you're almost always hopefully going to have some color in the water. Again, if it's crystal clear and you can see a newspaper on the bottom in 10 foot, you're probably not going to do very well brown trout fishing. So hopefully there's some color in the water. Because there is some color in the water, I feel like the weather conditions play much more of a role in lure choice than they do otherwise. What do I mean by that? Well, if it's cloudy, if it's raining, if it's choppy, those things break up the sunlight. And when you're dealing with colored water, if you have things that break up the sunlight, you really could potentially use some brighter, gaudy colors to get their attention. So that, speaking of that right there, let's talk a little bit and start with more of your clearer water conditions. So let's say that we were going to head out tomorrow and, I pulled up to the area we're going to fish and there's a little bit of color in the water, but I can see my spoon, 4, 5, 6 feet down. I can't see the bottom in 10 feet, but I can see down, a substantial ways. I probably would lean more towards silver spoons, and I'm going to lean more towards natural colors. Some of my favorite colors to fish in those conditions are going to be things like, a Mountain Dew stud on a silver blank. Something like that. A blue mahi and a green mahi on silver blanks. Those are going to be two of my favorite type patterns in clear water. To me, these are natural type colors. They're shiny. They're holographic. They're going to reflect the sunlight really, really well. Two of our other real standbys over the years have been Confusion, UV Confusion, and UV Two-Face. Both of those with the UV tape on them and a silver blank are real metallic, reflect the sun really, really well and just work really, really well in more of those clear type conditions. So when you're in a situation where you got 4, 5, 6 foot of visibility and you're in 10, 15, 20 foot of water, I would start with a little bit more of the silver type baits and more of our natural type colors. Now, let's say that you've got more dirtier conditions where you only have 2, 3, 4 feet of visibility and maybe you got some cloud cover or a little bit of chop. That's really where I'm going to lean on more of the gold and maybe some of the copper and the gaudier type colors. Some of the Sam Kenny colors that I've really done well with in these situations over the years have been like the Orange Crush. This is probably Lily's favorite brown trout spoon. Orange Crush Mini Gold. In that dirtier water conditions. I can remember being in a dirty water situation, and I have a video on it on YouTube. I think a fishing report video in April down in Waukegan. We were cold fishing, but same sort of situation, same sort of watercolors, things like that. And our dew frog was by far our hottest bait in gold that particular day, if I remember right. And then we do have a couple of new ones that I really, really think are going to shine in your dirty water situation, and that is Coal Crusher and Winx UV. And you can see both of these. See if I can slide that Winx up a little bit away from the label there. You can see both of these, are about as gaudy as it gets. They're both fully painted spoons with a little bit of UV tape on them and a lot of color to them. Those are really, really good colors for dirty water. And then a couple more for that dirty water that I've really, really done well with the last several years have been like Wonder Wolverine has been one of my favorites. Again, in like the gold or the copper type back. Orange Stud kind of is an in-betweener. Seems to work good in both the dirty water and clear water situations. And then Orange Knight has done real well. Last but not least, don't forget Steely Candy. That's another one that I wanted to mention. That's been real good for me in more dirty water situations. One of our new spoons that I think is exciting as kind of what I would call more of a hybrid spoon, and I've got a copper one here, but we make it obviously in the silver, the copper, and the gold. And I call this more of a hybrid spoon because I think it's probably going to work in both clear and dirty water conditions. Now, it might not be ideal necessarily for one or the other, but it will work in both of them. It's going to be the Songvin's Bam. And this is on a copper type, copper blank spoon. That's the front of that Songvin's Bam on that copper, and there's the back of it. But because this is going to have a mix of that crushed glow, it's got some UV on it for more of that natural type bait fish look, but it's also got the gaudy green dots on the front and the black dots on the back. It's got a full mixture of colors. So that's really going to give you a good opportunity to have success in multiple different situations. The biggest thing, in my opinion, when you're choosing spoons for brown trout fishing is when you start off the morning, don't be afraid to put a little bit of a mixture out there. And once you figure out, hey, they're biting gold today or they're biting silver today, take some of those other ones off that aren't that particular blank color. Get some more on that can help you catch more fish. To me, it is one of the most exciting times of year. We're getting ready to get out there and chase one of my favorite fish to catch. I'm looking forward to get out there and giving you guys some on-the-water reports and some success on a bunch of this different stuff. We make quite a few different color patterns, for clear water situations, for dirty water situations that work on Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario, and all over the place. So make sure you check out salmoncandyfishing.com. And if you need anything, let me know. You can hit me up with an email or a message, and I'll do the best I can to give you a hand. So this is Russell from Russell's Fishing Tech. Hopefully you get out, chase after some of them brown trout. Good luck fishing.